Hello and welcome. It is April 9th, and we are alone together once again. This is our Corona challenge, and it is challenging many of us in many ways. Many of us need to grow. Many of us need to leave some things behind. Many of us need to change the way we communicate, maybe with our loved ones. Maybe some of us need to manage our nervous system a little bit better so we don't have the constant and chronic activation of the fight or flight response. Maybe some of us have to start using our executive function, the CEO of the brain, and be less reactive and more responsive. Maybe some of us are noticing we need to think a little bit more about others, while some of us need to start thinking a little bit more about ourselves. It's all about refinement, isn't it? And the silver linings. What are they? What are the silver linings in your life? I've been thinking a lot about it. For me, I really, this is one of them, being with you. Being able to hear the birds and be on the beach alone, I'm lucky that we get to do that here in this county. I just find that the peace that I'm feeling at a very deep level is a silver lining. I hope you're feeling the same way. I don't know. I'd love to hear. I know some of you have been really called to more service, not less, more service within your family and your community. Maybe you're homeschooling your kids, or you're taking care of your the elderly people in your life. I spent a little time this morning ordering hair color for the women that my mother lives with in the nursing home, because the hairdresser's not allowed in anymore. So what have you been doing? How have you been called to serve? And how have you been called to upgrade your life? If you want to put something in the chat, you can. I'd love to hear it. So we've been meditating. There's all kinds of meditations we've been doing. Yesterday we did that archetype meditation, which I thought was kind of interesting in the afternoon. And it was really just examining, and maybe we'll do it again today because I think we had a pretty good experience. Some of us really did. And before we start, let's talk about what an archetype is. So an archetype really refers to the kind of collective consciousness. It's slightly different maybe for people in Japan or India or the US or Europe. People in different religious or faiths have different archetypes within their religion. But archetypes can even be astrological. We have archetypes in our names of our months. We have archetypes in the names of our days. Archetypes can be animals, and they can be, your spirit animal or spirit guide. They can be angels. They can be from fairy tales. They can be from, they can be from mythology. I grew up with, my brother's name is Winston. My father's name is Winston. My nephew's name is Winston. So I grew up with a lot of Winstons, but of course we were calling them Winnie. So I was really exposed to Winnie the Pooh, right? He was a true archetype for me, and Piglet and all of those characters there. But Winnie the Pooh was probably one of my first teachers of Zen, when he would say, "What is today?" I think it was Piglet would say, "What is today?" And Winnie the Pooh said, "What is today?" And he goes, "Today is my favorite day." Something along those lines. I wish I'd prepared more for this, but there are these archetypes that serve us, that help us to stay centered, that some of them we call on. Like I was telling some of you yesterday that my grandmother, she had the St. Christopher's medal on her car to protect her while she was traveling. She would lose something and she would call on St. Anthony. We would have to say Hail Marys, like 7 Hail Marys before noon on Tuesday for a special surprise. Now I was not particularly connected to the Catholic religion, but she was, and I was more connected to Winnie the Pooh or to other aspects. But if you even look at the planets and the archetypal planets or the archetypal energies in the Vedic or Hindu tradition, they exist for us so that we can call upon them in challenging times and then ask their advice or ask them to live through us as we face a particular challenge in our lifetime. So I wanted to suggest that maybe you consider who it is you go to, whether it's Jesus or Buddha or your grandmother who's long gone, or asking what would this person do? I sometimes think about Amma, the hugging saint in India, or Buddha. How can I embody the qualities of Buddha? And so as we go through these challenging times, sometimes it really serves to bring them up. So I had a retreat where were we? Somewhere in England. And we each came up with 3 archetypes. Now, I'm not going to ask that you do that now because it does take a little bit of time. So the 3 archetypes I chose were Saraswati, which is a Hindu goddess. And actually, you can't see her, but she's up there in that little shrine area there. And Saraswati is the goddess of wisdom and knowledge and beauty. And I sometimes pretend I was named after her. And then, of course, I wasn't. I was named after Winston Churchill's daughter, Sarah, and because my father's Winston. And then the next archetype I chose was Julia Butterfly Hill. Now, she's still alive today, so you can choose a heroine or a hero that's still alive today. She was the woman who spent, gosh, I think over a year, it might even have been over 2 years, living up in a beautiful, what's the big trees? It's the sequoias up in California in a forest that was being threatened by a timber company called Lumber Liquidators. And she was living in this tree, which is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old, way up, maybe 10, maybe 20 stories high on a branch, and she didn't come down because she was protecting this tree from being clear cut for somebody's, fence or whatever it was going to be. And so I really appreciated her. I had an opportunity to interview her. And, she said, every single choice that we make, every single choice we make, whether it's what we buy, what we eat, what we choose to pay attention to, what we choose to wear, has a ripple effect. And I, of course, I feel the exact same way. And, she's very sensitive now. She's really taking care of herself. I mean, it was a very big and public demonstration, literally, and protestation on trying to save the environment. So she's one of my, I have to say, archetypes, is that heroine for the environment. Maybe Diane Fossey is for you, or who's the one, Silent Spring? Who wrote Silent Spring? You probably know. And then, so I had 2 other women, and they chose other people. Rachel Carlson, thank you very much, Carson. And then one of them chose Queen Elizabeth, or Queen Victoria. Is that right? No, Queen Elizabeth. She chose Queen Elizabeth, and a Black woman who was one of the first nurses never got noticed. I think it was Clara Barton that got noticed, or Florence Nightingale that got noticed, or somebody, but she didn't ever get noticed. But she started an entire realm of nurses, of Black nurses, and really made huge inroads for them. And so who is it that you turn to for inspiration? Maybe you love the archangels, maybe you love the saints, maybe you love Jesus, maybe you love Muhammad, maybe you love Saint Teresa, maybe you love Athena. So who do you turn to when you're being challenged to face an issue, a problem? And I know a lot of us are coming up against issues and problems. And I'd love to say meditation can serve us all, which it will, but it doesn't make everything go away. As a matter of fact, one thing it helps you to do is kind of shine the light on areas that you need to grow. For me, I used to love to transcend. I still do. And I think a lot of us who grew up in a sort of a traumatic household tend to like to transcend. So we like to go from the waking state way down into maybe that state where you don't know anything and you don't feel anything and you don't see anything, and you're in that ocean of bliss or ocean of consciousness. So for me, it was easy to go from waking to transcendence, but it's the other stuff. It's how do I feel? What do I say? What is my baggage that I'm wearing, the self-limiting beliefs? And as I meditated time and time again, I recognized that I was having some challenges with emotions because I didn't have a fluency in them. I just either felt mad, glad, or sad, and then transcended the rest of it. And there's Gigi. I don't know what she's doing, but we might have to see if she needs to go out. Anyway, so for me, some of these compassion meditations, some of the loving kindness practices, those self-inquiry questions, how can I best love myself? These are really important. And so also finding heroes and heroines. One person once said to me, you need to find some heroines, because I basically was feeling so alienated from the world that I just didn't feel inspired as a young girl. And they said, you need to read biographies of women that, made differences in the world, that navigated the world with strength and courage. And so began my quest. And so if you've never thought about this, maybe now's the time. And if you've already thought about this and never really thought to work with archetypes, maybe now's the time. So let's think about that, shall we? Even the month of January is named after the god Janus, right? The day of Monday is named after the moon, right? So we have all of these influences in our lives that if you look around, it's everywhere. Archetypes are everywhere. This collective consciousness is everywhere. This collection right now of Easter and the one who's risen, Passover, the miracles of coming out of slavery. They're everywhere, collective agreements. Whether it's Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day or Easter or Passover or Good Friday, they're everywhere. And so who do you turn to? What story works for you? Okay, so let's meditate. Some of you have joined me before. If you did dial in, I just want to say the password is peace, all lowercase. If you needed and wanted to click on the link, they changed it on us. So what we do is we meditate for about 15 minutes, and I like to talk about the 5 essentials. Number 1, it's okay if you get distracted in the middle of meditation, start thinking about what's for lunch or dinner or what someone said to you earlier. Number 2, be kind to yourself in there. Let's all practice that all the time, because how you treat yourself in meditation is how you end up treating yourself in your life. What you put your attention on creates the new neural pathways. So let's practice that, shall we? Number 3, don't try to have a certain experience. I might guide you into a conversation with your archetype. If nothing comes, it's perfectly fine. Do not try to be spiritual or try to have some insight. Instead, let's explore with a beginner's mind what's going on. And lastly, have no expectations. Let's just see what happens. And lastly, stay with the practice. I'm going to sound the chime at the end of the meditation. And when I do that, I'm going to invite you to stay seated with your eyes closed as we move out of the meditation into activity slowly. So thanks for joining us. It's really the best part of my day, being here with you. So getting comfortable is key. Finding a little comfort wherever you're seated. I sometimes sway when I meditate. I notice sometimes I end up moving around, and that's perfectly fine. Don't try to sit perfectly straight or perfectly erect. Let yourself be comfortable. Be nice to yourself. So I like to close my eyes, but if you prefer to cap them and gaze softly towards the ground, you can do that. Your hands can be on your lap, face up or face down. Just settle into your space right now. Get a little cozy. And then if your eyes are closed now, give yourself some deeper breaths through your nose. Breathing in slowly and fully, and breathing out slowly and fully. It's a really beautiful way to tell your body it's time to relax. It activates the parasympathetic response, the peaceful response, the rest and digest response. It also gives tone to your vagus nerve, which tends to be affected by stress. So breathing in slowly and deeply at your own pace, breathing out slowly and fully at your own pace. And then when you feel ready to return to your natural breath, you can do that. Ideally, breathing through your nose. There's no need to control or regulate your breath. Simply become aware of it. So what I like to do is invite you to consider a situation that may have been a little more prominent as we've been alone together, or as you've been alone or with your entire family. What kind of situation do you think you need to work with, need some advice on, need to expand on, or become enlightened on? Let's bring that to your heart and mind. And we'll return to it after we practice a few minutes of mindfulness practice. So letting your whole body soften, becoming aware of the sounds in the environment, welcoming everything, observing what you hear. Welcoming sounds that are near and far. Sounds that are ever present, and then sounds that seem to come and go. Just tuning into the silence from which the sounds arise. Observing, welcoming, not resisting anything. As you now turn that same observational attention towards yourself and towards whatever emotions are present. Maybe there's nothing, but maybe there's some residue or something very prominent. Welcoming what you feel, acknowledging that you are human and you get to feel all of your feelings. All is welcome here. And if there's something particularly difficult for you to handle, see if you can name whatever that emotion is. You don't have to identify the source of it. Simply name it, like you might name a color. And ask it what it needs from you right now. If you need anything at all. When you move towards pain, whether it's emotional or physical, you're activating that wise mind. What do you need? And bringing your attention, that same observation, to the body. Noticing sensations of comfort and maybe discomfort. Is there any area of your body that you've been trying to avoid or wish would go away, or the sensations would go away, or it would heal? Bring that same attention, even considering that attention as love, toward that area of your body. And instead of judging it or trying to figure out why you feel a certain way, simply observe the sensation, keeping it company with your loving attention. And asking it too, what do you need? What can I do for you? So let's move into a mindfulness breath awareness practice. Before we do that, be sure your belly is soft and your face is soft. Your shoulders are down away from your ears. As you feel the support in the chair, settling into this safe space and bringing your attention to your breath. Noticing the sensations of breathing, the subtler ones, perhaps the temperature changes or the end of the exhale. Letting your breath charm your attention. Whenever you notice it's drifting away, just come on back to the breath. We'll do this for a couple of minutes. I'll keep track of the time as you're aware of breathing in and aware of breathing out. And now bring into your heart, mind, or imagination your archetype, who you turn to in moments of challenge, can hold things for you until you can take them back and handle them yourself, who you're inspired by. Get a sense of him or her. And imagine they're sitting or standing in front of you. Identifying at least 3 of the qualities in them that you're calling on now, whether it be their grace or their wisdom, their courage or their strength, their compassion or their love. See them and welcome them and identify 3 of their qualities that you could most use today. And then in your mind, you can imagine a dialogue with them, telling them of your challenge today or what's been coming up for you, and asking for their advice, their insight, or their wisdom. Having a dialogue with them. We'll do this for about another minute. And then you can thank them. Remembering their words, if any, of wisdom and support. And then we're going to look for those qualities in ourselves that we so admire in them. So though you may not embody them in the exact same amount or way, identifying those three qualities in them and then finding the way that you are like them. Whether it's courage or persistence or loving, whatever it may be, let's spend a minute or so finding the ways in which that you are like them. Because what you look for, you will find. And you can even turn them into an affirmation. I am, whatever those qualities are. I am. And then returning your attention back to the breath. Taking a few more mindful breaths. I'm going to sound the chime now and invite you to keep your eyes closed. You can keep repeating those affirmations if you like, or noticing the sounds in the room or from the chime. And noticing how you feel. Noticing what emotions are present. You can deepen your breath a little bit if you like. Become aware of the space around you if you want to stretch into it. You can take your time with opening your eyes. You might start by noticing the light that's coming through your eyelids before you even open them with a downward gaze. And you can open them all the way when you feel ready, but take your time. There's really no rush. I like to bring my hands together and bow to that love, that wholeness, that beauty, that perfection that lives through each one of us. It lives through me as me. It lives through you as you. Some of us just don't realize it yet, but it is here. It is empowering. And all we have to do is remove the obstacles to our self-realization. So thank you for joining me in that journey. It's kind of inspired by these beautiful people and figures, mythical, historical, non-physical, that have paved the way for our facing our challenges, whatever they may be. Maybe it's a challenge to grow or be more confident. Who knows? But I'd love to hear how that went for you. Would anyone like to share? Anyone have anything they'd like to say? I just keep getting, when I was asking Saraswati, and because sometimes I want to really uncover what's really going on, but she is the goddess of wisdom, so her advice to me was just do it with grace and ease, and people will wake up when they're ready. And so I appreciated that, instead of trying to force things and make people wake up, which you can't do anyway. It's just to know that you know, and to be okay with knowing that you know and not forcing it on anyone. So I appreciated that. Look at all these beautiful messages on here. I'm just going to read a few for those of you who are watching this on the video. We have people from Boulder, from Kelowna, BC, from New York City, hello, Wind Point, Wisconsin, Sedona, Arizona, Kathy Featherstone from Sedona, Amy in South Carolina, and the silver lining for her is that she's been Zooming with her grandsons to help them with their schoolwork while her daughter works. Melissa is a very powerful woman, and Amy is a great teacher, so isn't that great? And Carol making isolation gowns for the medical center. Great, Carol. And Lori running an organization that makes it easier for universities to enroll students in online programs across the states. Wow, I'd love to hear more about that. I was thinking about how this really levels the playing field, really calls us to be excellent as teachers and as people who design curriculum and as working with students. I was thinking about that. And Lori's been called to sew masks from neighbors in the local nursing home. So sweet. And then Kurt, care packages of food to your mother-in-law. Oh, that's so sweet. And Kathy's smiling a lot, offering meditations once a week. I know you love that, Kathy. I know you're good at it too. And Carol from Washington, delivering food from food bank and senior shut-ins. And joined by a new being, historical character, has courage and directed purpose to share with me. Oh, great, Carol. Love it. Anyone else want to share who they chose or what message they got, or are you still sitting with it? Feel free to share in the chat or unmute yourself and say hello.
Sarah, this is Kurt in Wisconsin.
Hey, Kurt.
Wow. I'll preface it with, I was a single dad raising 2 kids, a 10-year-old and a 0-year-old. And I grew to understand that I was the loud parent. And I'm watching my oldest daughter, who is in her 40s, and my wife and I
can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else can.
Yeah, I can.
My wife and I just are in awe.
Can anyone hear Kurt?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, I can't, so.
I can.
My wife and I are in awe of her parenting skills. And I am very clear that she didn't get those from me. And I struggle with my communications with my son, who is 10 years younger than her. And I've ended up asking her, how do you think I should approach your brother about this? And we have developed a WWCD. Courtney just said, Dad, just think, what would Courtney do? And so while I was struggling to find who my archangel would be, and all of a sudden it hit me that my daughter is teaching me how to be a parent in my old age, and I am so grateful. And she's so compassionate towards me and helpful, rather than holding me at arm's length. And I just realized that she is someone that I rely on. So, and I always love learning something every day. And this morning with Susie, I learned that I do not breathe with my diaphragm in a meditation-friendly way. It dawned on me that when we were filling our bellies and then pushing it back out, my arms were clenched as I was kind of bearing down. So I realized I don't know how to breathe with my diaphragm. And so I spent this meditation trying to make sure my arms stayed relaxed during all of that. And so that was a new find for me today. So I've learned that I need to improve that. So with that, thank you.
With kindness, improve it with kindness, Kurt. Be nice to yourself. And yeah, it's great, that self-realization, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. I know I clenched I remember when I found out I clenched my right hip the whole day. When I realized that, it was amazing.
Wow.
So awareness can change everything. That's what that called the, I want to call it the Herkheimer, but it's not that. It's another effect. Schrodinger's cat. Yeah, your attention can change everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else care to share?
My name's Christine. I was surprised to find out my 3 archetypes are 3 of my best friends, and one is on this, is the one that introduced me to this meditation. And they always have been, I'm so lucky to have 3 people who I can go to with various skills and wisdoms, and they're right there, and they're alive, and they're giving me advice, and I'm very grateful. So that was mine.
Oh, Christine, would you share with us the 3 qualities that you could find inside you?
I found love, that I'm a loving person, and I am a willing person. I'm always willing, I think, to do things for others. It's like I feel, like, and a lot of people wouldn't volunteer for something. It was like, that's so easy, I'll do it. It's I have that willingness. And then I think I am wise, and that I give back to those friends of mine and to other people the wisdom that I have that they give to me.
Well, you know what I call that exercise? Thank you for sharing, Christine. I call this exercise, if you spot it, you got it. And that goes for the good and the bad and the ugly. But I'm just letting you know, because it's really helpful. What we're attracted to or what we're resisting, it's all good information.
It is.
Yeah. Would anyone else like to share how that went for you? Any advice you got?
One of the things that I don't know where I went to, but all of a sudden I remember that the Ho'oponopono,
Yep.
which is I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you.
Mhm.
And I guess it really changed the mental health facility over in Hawaii, where a guy just prayed that for each one of those inmates every
That's
day.
right. You can do it, and that's such a beautiful prayer, and you can even use it in communication. If you ever have to say something challenging or difficult, or even just a beautiful communication, it works. If you start each sentence, you have 4 sentences, you start each one with them. Would you share them again, Theryl, for everyone?
I guess they can actually go in any order, but it's I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. It is so powerful and potent. And you could do that on your own as a meditation. What I like to do is just let every person I need to work with just show up on the screen of my awareness. And it's so powerful, whether it's someone in my family or someone on the news or someone in the world. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Theryl. That's a powerful prayer. Ho'oponopono. Anyone else care to share?
This is Linda in South Lake Tahoe.
Hey, Linda.
And the Virgin of Guadalupe is someone that I go to, and today I was asking to have more compassion with my 11-year-old that I'm sharing this time with,
Yeah.
and show up more, not hide so much. So I'm grateful, and I envisioned that love just coming right out of her heart, right around us, right surrounding us all. So thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. What service you're giving her. What a lucky little girl.
Me too back.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else care to share? Well, thank you for doing that practice with me. I find it to be kind of interesting. It's different each time. And I'm not particularly good at visualizing, but there's just a sense of having that being there. So thank you for going on that journey with me.
Thank you.